Let me ask you something. Have you ever been knocked down so hard that you questioned whether you'd ever rise again? You had a dream, a vision, a goal that once lit a fire in your soul, and then life happened. Maybe it was a failure that crushed your confidence. Maybe someone betrayed your trust. Maybe the world didn't applaud when you gave it your all. And now you're standing there bruised, bitter, and wondering, will it ever happen again? Let me give you the truth, raw and real. Yes. It will happen again, but not by luck, not by waiting, not by chance. It will happen again because you will decide it will. See, most people wait for life to hand them permission slips. Permission to succeed, permission to be happy, permission to live fully. But what if I told you you're already holding the pen? You don't need permission. You need a decision. You've already done it once. You've already achieved something you once thought was impossible. You got that job, you passed that exam, you made that sale, you fell in love, you broke through, and even if that success didn't last, the fact that you reached it means it's possible again. Success doesn't die. Passion doesn't expire. Greatness doesn't vanish. They just wait. Wait for you to remember who you are. So here's the deal, the thing you're chasing, that dream that keeps you up at night, that voice inside that whispers more. It didn't leave you. You left it, but you can return, you can reignite. You think the mountain is too high now, you've climbed it before. You think the world has moved on, maybe it has, but you haven't. And that means it's not over. It will happen again, because now you're wiser, you've tasted failure, you've bled, you've fallen, and now you're equipped. You've got scars now, and scars are proof that you heal. Some of you lost something, a relationship, a business, an identity, and you buried your potential with it. But you forgot one thing, seeds grow best after they've been buried. You're not done, you're just not done yet. You may not feel ready, you may be overwhelmed, but growth doesn't wait for comfort, and purpose doesn't knock its kicks down the door when you're bold enough to answer. Here's what I know, you're going to rise again. But not the same version of you that fell. This time you rise stronger, smarter, hungrier. This time you don't just climb the mountain, you own it. But let's be real, this won't happen just because you feel inspired today. Inspiration without execution is delusion. You must act, you must move. Clarity comes through motion, not meditation. You don't wait to feel ready. You get up and get busy, one step, one choice, one decision. Every time you choose courage over comfort, you rewrite your story. Because every champion you admire, every icon, every legend, every peak performer, they didn't win because they never failed. They won because they refused to stay down. They knew it would happen again and they acted like it. So let me challenge you right here, right now, to stop postponing your power, to stop labeling yourself by your past, to stop living rehearsals when you were born for the spotlight. No more playing small. No more waiting for the right time. The right time is whenever you choose to be relentless. You want to build it again, do it. You want to feel alive again, chase it. You want to rise from the ashes? Burn the excuses, because your story is not over, it's about to begin again, bolder than ever. And the best part, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be progressing. Progress is the oxygen of fulfillment. When you're moving, you're living. When you're creating, you're growing. And when you're growing, nothing can stop you. So maybe life knocked you down. Maybe it humbled you. Good. That's where greatness begins. Pain will visit you, but suffering is optional. Failure will teach you if you're willing to learn. And life will reward you when you stop playing not to lose and start playing to win. You don't rebuild from scratch. You rebuild from experience. And if you're breathing right now, you're not done. You've still got power in you. You've still got stories to write. You've still got a fire that hasn't burned out, only dimmed. So light it again. It will happen again because you're about to become the person who makes it happen. Not someday, today. Now go, move, create, claim it, because the world hasn't seen the best of you yet, but they will, because it will happen again. You don't need permission. You need a decision. That's the truth most people never hear. We grow up conditioned to wait, to ask, to seek approval, to follow rules written by someone else. From childhood, we're told when to speak, when to act, and even what's possible. And without realizing it, we internalize this. We carry it into adulthood, into our dreams, our goals, our ambitions. We think we need someone to validate us, to certify our worth, to give us a green light before we move forward. We wait for signs, we wait for support, we wait for someone to say, "You're good enough now, go ahead." But that moment rarely comes because it was never meant to. It was never anyone else's job to tell you who you can be. That job belongs to you. The most powerful people in the world, the ones who changed industries, started movements, built empires, they didn't ask for a seat at the table. They built their own table. They didn't wait to be picked. They picked themselves. They didn't wonder if the world would say yes. They decided that their vision was worth the risk, the time, the energy, and they moved not because they were ready, but because they were willing. A decision holds more power than 1,000 hopes. It's not the external circumstances that determine your life. It's the internal commitment, the shift from "can I" to "I will." That shift is what creates momentum. And momentum, once started, becomes unstoppable. You can read every book, attend every seminar, listen to every podcast, but until you make the decision, none of it means anything. Knowledge without action is wasted potential. You're not missing resources. You're missing resolve. That moment you choose, fully choose to go all in, everything begins to change. Not because the world gets easier, but because you get clearer. Because your energy is no longer divided. Because you're no longer looking outward for confirmation. You're sourcing everything from within. That's where real power comes from. There's a kind of electricity that runs through your body the moment you decide. Not the kind of shallow wish or fleeting motivation, but a soul-level commitment. When you say, "This is who I am, this is what I will do, no matter what, no matter how long it takes," that's when your identity shifts. That's when you stop being a spectator in your own life and start being the creator of it. That's when the excuses, the fears, the opinions, they all get quieter because you've made a louder sound, a sound called purpose, a sound called ownership. Waiting for permission is comfortable because it allows you to avoid responsibility. If it doesn't work out, you can blame the world, the system, the timing. But when you decide, really decide, you take full responsibility. You say, "If it's going to happen, it's up to me." That scares a lot of people, but that's also what liberates them, because responsibility is not a burden, it's a gift. It means you're no longer at the mercy of circumstances. You're not waiting for doors to open, you're building your own doors and walking through them. Decision turns confusion into clarity. It turns potential into movement. It turns fear into fuel. It's not magic. It's not luck. It's choice. A choice you can make in this very moment. A choice that separates those who wish from those who achieve. Scars are proof that you heal not, that you're broken. Every time life knocks you down, every time something tears you apart, every disappointment, heartbreak, failure, and rejection leaves a mark. And somewhere along the way, society taught us to hide those marks, to be ashamed of the cracks, to cover them up, to act like we're whole only if we're flawless. But that's not strength. That's performance. The truth is, your scars are the real story. They are the evidence that you went through something painful, something hard, something most people wouldn't understand, and yet you made it out, not untouched but undefeated. When you look at a scar, what you're seeing is healing in progress. You're seeing that something hurt you, but it didn't end you. You're seeing that your body or your soul fought back. You endured, and in the process, you began to grow, because that's what pain does. It initiates growth. No one evolves in comfort. No one rises without resistance. It's the hardship that refines us. It's the setbacks that sharpen us. It's the scars that become the signature of resilience. They are not signs of weakness. They are signs that you're still here, still fighting, still becoming. Too often we confuse being damaged with being broken, but damage is part of the process. Everything meaningful in life comes with risk of loss, of pain, of failure. If you've never been hurt, it means you've never tried hard enough. You've never pushed deep enough. You've never cared enough. Those who play it safe don't get scars. but they also don't get stories. They don't build character, they don't learn the depths of their own strength, and in trying to avoid the scars, they also avoid the transformation. There's something powerful that happens when you shift your mindset around scars. When you stop seeing them as shameful and start seeing them as sacred, because they remind you of the battles you didn't think you'd survive, the nights you thought would break you, the silence you screamed through, the days you showed up when it would have been easier to quit. Every scar is a reminder that your worst days didn't win, that your inner fire was greater than your outer circumstances, that healing is messy, imperfect, non-linear, but always possible. Scars also remind you that you've felt deeply, that you've loved even when love didn't return, that you've tried even when effort was ignored, that you've hoped even when the world said stop. That kind of courage is rare. That kind of heart is unteachable. It's not just about surviving, it's about showing up again, even when you've been wounded before. It's about being open to life even when it hasn't been kind. Scars don't make you hard. They make you real. They don't make you bitter. They make you brave. And as you carry those scars, you become someone others look to not because you're perfect, but because you're proof. Proof that healing is possible. Proof that pain can be turned into power. Proof that falling doesn't mean failing, and that brokenness doesn't mean defeat. You become a light in someone else's dark, a guide for those who are still in their storm, because you've walked through fire and lived to tell the story, and no amount of perfection can match the power of someone who has walked through pain and kept their heart open. So when you see your scars, don't flinch. Don't cover them up. Don't apologize for them. Recognize them for what they are: evidence that you were tested and you endured. Evidence that you faced something real and didn't turn away. Evidence that you are not fragile but forged. Not broken but built. Seeds grow best after they've been buried. It's in the darkness, in the weight of the soil, in the pressure and silence of being underground, where the magic begins. At first glance, burial and planting look the same. Something is pushed down, hidden, covered, pressed beneath the surface, but the intention behind each act is completely different. Burial is meant to end things. Planting is meant to begin things. And sometimes life will push you so low that it feels like you've been buried. But what if you've actually been planted? When everything falls apart, when dreams collapse, when people leave and doors close and nothing makes sense, that's when the soil starts to feel suffocating. That's when the pressure gets heavy. That's when the light disappears and you're left with only your thoughts, your doubts, and your fears. But that's also when roots begin to form. Growth doesn't start in the spotlight. It starts in the shadows, in silence, in solitude, and it takes time. It takes surrender. It takes the willingness to stay grounded while everything above the surface looks empty. A seed doesn't sprout the moment it's planted. There's a process. The outer shell has to crack. It has to break. That shell is comfort, identity, ego, all the things you once clung to. And when it breaks, it feels like loss. It feels like pain, but it's actually expansion. That's how the roots find their way down and the stem begins to push up. That's how the unseen work starts. Before anyone sees the fruit, the foundation must be formed. Before the bloom, there is breaking. Before the rise, there is a fall. Life will bury you with disappointment, with failure, with rejection, with unexpected turns that don't seem fair. But if you can shift your perspective from victim to vessel, everything changes. Because being buried isn't the end, it's the beginning of reinvention. It's the preparation for something greater than what you were before. And when you're underground, that's when you decide what kind of roots you're going to grow. Will you let the weight crush you, or will you use it to anchor yourself deeper? Some seasons are not meant for harvest. They're meant for rooting, for becoming, for internal growth that no one sees. And it's hard because we live in a world that only celebrates the results, the outcomes, the visible success. But the real power lies in the season of invisibility. That's where strength is built. That's where resilience is formed. That's where self-belief is tested and rebuilt stronger. The soil may be dark, but it's also rich. It holds the nutrients, the silence, the time you need to grow in ways you didn't even know you needed. And when the moment comes when your roots are deep enough, your shell is cracked enough, and your will is strong enough, you'll rise, not as the same person who was buried, but as someone entirely new. Someone grounded, someone transformed, someone who knows what it feels like to start again, not from nothing, but from wisdom. It's easy to doubt your worth when no one can see your progress. It's easy to question your purpose when you feel hidden. But just because something is unseen doesn't mean it's unworthy. Some of the most powerful growth happens in the dark. Some of the most beautiful breakthroughs begin with a breakdown. And some of the most unstoppable versions of you can only be created when life forces you to dig deep. Inspiration without execution is delusion. It's easy to get excited. It's easy to feel the rush of motivation after hearing a powerful story, watching a video, reading a quote, or imagining your dream life. That high, that spark, that surge of energy, it's real and it feels amazing. But that feeling on its own won't build anything. It won't change your life. It won't move the needle forward unless it's followed by something real, something tangible, something that leaves the realm of imagination and enters the world of action. Because no matter how inspired you feel, if you don't take the first step, you're still in the exact same place. Inspiration is the ignition, but action is the engine. You can have all the ideas, all the vision boards, all the journal entries, but without execution, they become fantasies. Dreams without movement become mental prisons. You walk around with so much potential and nowhere for it to go. That's when frustration builds. That's when self-doubt creeps in, not because you're incapable, but because you're disconnected from the discipline it takes to turn inspiration into impact. You keep waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect clarity, the perfect confidence. But perfection is the enemy of progress. You don't need to know everything. You need to move with what you know. So many people spend years gathering information, thinking that if they just learn a little more, they'll finally be ready. But the truth is, learning is only powerful when it leads to doing. Otherwise, you're just consuming. You're watching other people live the life you're dreaming about, cheering them on, admiring their courage, all while sitting on your own gold mine. You tell yourself, one day, but one day becomes never if it's not backed by action today. The greatest regrets don't come from what people did. They come from what they never dared to start. You can't manifest success without momentum. Momentum comes from motion, from trying, failing, adjusting, trying again. That's how skill is built. That's how confidence is earned. Action is the bridge between who you are and who you want to become. Without it, the vision stays a vision, the goal stays a wish, the plan stays a piece of paper. Execution is what separates the talkers from the doers, the thinkers from the achievers, the inspired from the unstoppable. Real transformation doesn't happen in your head. It happens in your habits. In the small, unglamorous daily steps that most people overlook. It happens when you choose to show up, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. That's where identity shifts, not in the moment you feel inspired, but in the moment you follow through on that inspiration. That's when you prove to yourself that you mean what you say, that you're not just dreaming, you're building. Discipline doesn't kill dreams, distraction does, procrastination does, waiting for a feeling does. And when you finally realize that inspiration is fleeting, but action is freeing, everything changes. You stop needing to feel ready. You stop needing motivation to strike. You start moving because you made a decision, not because the stars aligned. You become the kind of person who doesn't rely on hype, but on habits. Who doesn't just speak in goals, but lives in execution. Because when action becomes your standard, success becomes inevitable. You don't rebuild from scratch, you rebuild from experience. When life shatters your plans, when everything you counted on falls apart, it's easy to feel like you're starting over, like everything you built is gone, like every step you took was wasted. That illusion is powerful because in the middle of loss or failure, it feels like ground zero. But the truth is, you're not at the beginning. You're at a new level with new wisdom, new scars, and a new fire that wasn't there the first time. You're rebuilding, yes, but you're rebuilding with tools you didn't have before. Every setback left you with something. It left you with awareness, with clarity, with a deeper understanding of what works and what doesn't, with insight about people, about timing, about yourself. Those lessons were paid for in pain, in time, in energy. That means they are not just important, they're priceless, and now you carry them, not as baggage, but as building blocks. The version of you rising now is stronger, sharper, and more strategic than the version of you who first tried. Rebuilding doesn't mean repeating, it means rewriting. You don't have to do things the same way. You don't have to make the same compromises. You don't have to tolerate what you used to tolerate. You have the authority now to create something different, something more aligned, more honest, more refined. That's what experience gives you. It gives you discernment. It sharpens your instincts. It gives you the ability to recognize red flags faster, to spot opportunities sooner, to trust yourself more deeply. Most people think starting over means going back to zero, but zero is a mindset, not a measurement. You've already fought battles that others haven't even seen yet. You've survived storms that tried to break you. You've lost things you thought you couldn't live without, and somehow you're still standing. That's not starting over. That's leveling up. That's rebuilding on bedrock, not on sand. That's putting bricks on top of scars, not on top of illusions. You've already walked through failure and kept moving. You've already made mistakes and owned them. You've already fallen and gotten back up. That means you have proof. You have proof that you can navigate chaos, that you can rebuild trust, that you can reignite belief in yourself. That proof is more valuable than any motivation speech, any book, any advice, because it didn't come from theory. It came from living it. Sometimes you'll look at others who seem to be flying past you, building their lives without interruption, moving in straight lines while yours looks like a maze. But don't confuse pace with depth. Don't confuse speed with strength. What you've gained through the detours, the delays, the disruptions, that becomes your edge. That becomes your depth. That becomes the foundation of what you're creating next. And it won't be fragile. It won't be shallow. It won't be built to impress. It will be built to last. Every scar you carry, every tear you've wiped, every choice you've questioned, it's all part of your blueprint now. You're not recreating the past. You're not chasing the version of success someone else sold you. You're building something that reflects your growth, your truth, your power. And that power didn't come from wins alone. It came from the rebuilds. From the nights you held yourself together when no one was watching. From the mornings you started again with nothing but grit in your chest and fire in your eyes. You're not empty. You're equipped. You're not lost. You're learned. You're not starting over, you're starting ahead.